Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome. Hello, how are you? Today is Wednesday. Today is Wellness Wednesday, and I am excited to be here. How are you guys? So I see we have in the chat. Let's see, who do we have? Simply Taisha. Hello, hello. She says, Happy Wednesday, Divalicious fam. I love that. And fellas. Yeah, we have a couple of fellas now. I'm excited about that. Delilah, hello, hello, how are you? We have Mel B, we have 2.0 Mommy. Who else is in here? Lakeisha, how are you? I say Lakeisha because she's always the first one here between her and Taisha. So I'm amazed to see she didn't beat Taisha in here. Jen, hello, hello. And oh, we have Dave. Dave's our special guest. Dave's going to be coming in soon in a minute here. And let's just get started. I want to get started, and then we're going to bring Dave on. So if you didn't, I don't know, people just come to the lives because it's like a ritual now, right? But we're going to be talking tonight about GLP-1 weight loss and the fear of judgment. And, why people are afraid to share with their families and friends or feel like they can't share with family and friends, this GLP-1 journey that we're all on. So I would ask you guys in the chat, let me know, have you told your friends and family? Are there any friends or family that you have not shared your journey with? And I know some of you are in relationships. So I know, your better half probably knows your partner, your wife, your spouse, whoever. But do you have some friends that you haven't told? Do you have families that you haven't shared it with? And a lot of people have difficulty telling their friends and family. And we're going to talk about those reasons why. And I will share with you a personal story that I'm kind of struggling with as we speak with one of my friends on this journey. So, yeah, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Are you guys having a difficult time? Um, we shall see. I was going to invite one of my friends, and then I forgot, that to tell her about this because she's considering taking a GLP-1, and she's kind of worried what her friends and family may think. So yeah, so it's a real thing. It's a real thing. So let's see, what are you guys saying in the chat? Delilah says, nope, I do not discuss my health with anyone willingly. Okay. So if someone asks Delilah, like, how'd you lose all that weight? What would you say? I'm afraid to ask you, Delilah, what you would say. But I did already, right? So there it is. 2.0 Mommy, I haven't shared with extended family or church family. LOL. And why is that? Why do you think that is? My family and friends know, they're all supportive. All right, very good, Taisha. All right, what about some other people in the chat? What about Mel to the B? What about Keisha? Jen, do your friends and family know? I know Jen is lost. I don't know if you're at exactly 100 pounds, but that's a lot of pounds. Have you shared with people? And so, so I'm going to share with you guys. I have shared with very few people still. I've told a handful full of friends. There's close friends that I, talk to or interact with on a regular basis. I've told very few friends, and some people I work with, I've told some people. I haven't told everyone, and so I'm sure by now maybe things have spread around. I don't know, but I haven't told my extended family and extended friends, like, the friends that I don't talk to on a regular basis, but they would get invited to maybe even my wedding, or they would get invited to the cookout if I was having a cookout. I still haven't told those people, and I don't see them often enough for them to have noticed to ask me anything. So no, and I have not. And so I want to talk about why we often have a difficult time sharing with friends and family the weight loss. So wait, Jen, I think, did Jen answer me? She says, first of all, Jen, my friend, you are down 112 pounds. That is awesome, 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 awesome job, Jen. I love that. Now, Jen says, if someone asks me, I will tell, but haven't volunteered to anyone. Okay, that's a good way to put it, because I feel like that too. I didn't volunteer and tell people. If someone asked me, I think I would share that as well. But usually, people aren't just, coming up to you and saying that, in my experience. But I will share with you, my little experience here in a second. All right, Jen, that is awesome, awesome, awesome. So I have a friend, and I haven't told her. Well, I take that back. I didn't tell her initially. Like we were talking every single day. So we went from talking every single day to not talking really at all, not very much at all. And I shared with her, that I was on this journey. I think I shared because I was going live. I had lost 30 pounds. And I said, when I go live, when either I'm going to, if I lose 50 pounds first, or if I, or something else, if I get 50 subscribers, I said, I'm going live. And so, of course, I got to the 50 subscribers first. And so I told some of my friends, you what guys want to come? I thought it'd just be me and those friends in the live. Like I'm on a group chat with some college friends, and we're in this financial book club together. And so those are the 4 people I told. So I thought, okay, I'll let them know. And then I told some other people that I talk to on a regular basis. And shoot, this friend was one of them. And so her first thing was just very just kind of like annoyed. I felt like her, and now mind you, we were on a FaceTime call. We weren't face to face. And so she seemed very annoyed by it. And one of the questions she asked me was, what is going to happen long term? What is this going to do to your body long term? And I said, I don't know, but I definitely know what being obese and overweight is going to do for me long term. So I felt like, I don't really have a whole lot of choices at this point. I didn't feel like I could go wrong, right? So we know when you're obese, when you have obesity, the disease of obesity, you develop, high blood pressure, which I had, diabetes, which I had. It's cancer. You can, cancer cells love, sugar and, all the things related to obesity. You get sleep apnea. It affects your kidneys. It affects your liver. We all heard of fatty liver disease. So I'm breaking this all down, right? And I'm explaining. And I thought, when I left the conversation, I thought she just was not having it. She was not buying it, right? And I thought, wow, I wish I had some research that I could give her. Because if you talk to me, I'm a facts and I'm a numbers lady. And I thought if I had some facts or some numbers, or like even a book I could give her for her to read, I would. She's very smart, very educated, very knowledgeable. So she probably researched stuff on her own too. But, then a part of me was annoyed by it. But then I also thought she really cares about me. She's, worried about me. So one of the things I thought, when I started my YouTube channel back in June, the end of June, I thought, I'm going to document my weight loss. Guys know I was audio. I did not want to be on camera at all. And I ended up being on camera. And one of the things I thought was, I'm going to find people that have been on a weight loss journey, like myself with this GLP-1, and I'm going to find the ladies that have been on it for years. So that research, looking around for those ladies took me to Mindy Peterson, which I interviewed. I wanted to interview her because she had been on it for years. Patrice Denise, I interviewed her. She had been on actually Mounjaro as well for years. And I thought, these are the people I want to interview. I want to find people who have lost 100 plus pounds, and I want to find people that have been on this long term, so I can say to her and anybody else who had a doubt in their mind that these medications are not going to take me out of here, and so that was my goal. And so I think I've done that. I've done a lot of research myself, but I also still wanted to like give her something, which leads me to my special guest tonight, which is Dave. And I will tell you guys, I visited Dave's channel. I'm in and out. The more you make your own content, it's hard to it's hard for me to get around to everybody like I used to. But I used to be on Dave's show a lot, and I never really commented a whole lot. I didn't really understand how important that was to comment or leave messages or whatever. But I would be listening in, and I catch the replays from the live sometimes. And one of the things I saw was that he was writing this book, and I thought, oh my goodness, I was so excited. So I thought, I'm going to get this book. And I didn't get the book because by the time I had said in my head, I was going to get the book around Christmas time. around Christmas time. And then I said, I said to myself, okay, I'll get it around, sometime before spring break. And my spring break, you guys know, was just last week. So my goal was to get that book, read it for my spring break, and give it to my friend after I had read it. Well, I wasn't able to do that because I had heard that he wasn't able to sell the book. And I was like, what is going on? So I go over this channel. I'm hearing about all this, and I'll never forget. I saw him talking about how he had to change the title. He was changing this. He was doing that. Amazon, initially was selling the book, and then they weren't. And I thought, I love Amazon. What's up with Amazon, right? So I wanted something to be able to, give to my friend so that she would be equipped with the knowledge that I have at this point. And so, so anyway, I found out from Dave, he ended up telling me, no, my book is back on Amazon. And even though I don't advertise it here, I also, sell some books on Amazon. And so I sell my little books on Amazon. And so I thought, oh, okay, he's back on here. So I'd love that. So that prompted me to, here recently, I've been having some things going on, with this friend where we've had to interact. And I still feel like there's like an awkwardness. And then that got me to thinking, like, why haven't I told my friends and family? Why haven't I told my friends and family? And being on these lives and talking to different people and seeing how some people are really lonely and alone on this journey and they look to, our community for support, I thought, I think that's a great thing. And for me, one of the things I think I was afraid of, probably my number one thing is like the stigma around these GLP-1s, what people are saying about them, that, we're just, taking the medication, we're not eating, it's an easy fix, it's a quick fix, we're, lazy, we're not putting the work in. And I will tell you, none of those things apply to me before a GLP-1 or right now. I've never been lazy. Never, that's not me. I never take the easy way out. Now, do I like a good sale or something like this? Of course I do. But I don't take the easy way out ever. So nothing about these medications being easy breezy, lemon squeezy, or anything to do with me. And I thought, why am I even thinking that? I kind of let the whole media part of this, even, get to me. And and I also thought too, people say, we don't have willpower. So we lack willpower. That's why we're on these medications. And, and just all things negative about it. And so I think that the fear of that, like not wanting to be judged, right? Because, I think that I put on my thumbnail, they're judging me. Or we're being judged. They're judging us, actually. And so that's one of the things, the fear of being judged and the fear of being called lazy or weak or any of those things. Now, people who know me don't use those words ever to describe me. But in the area of weight loss, I thought maybe they do. Maybe they do. And so that is one of the reasons why I think I haven't told people, and I just don't want the questions. I teach my students, no question is a silly question. But actually, sometimes that's not true. Some questions, I just think, keep it to yourself. But, for this, I think really no question is a silly question if it's rooted in, really trying to understand and wanting to know. I think also another thing is a lot of people feel shame with these medications. They feel the shame, like couldn't do it myself. I can't control what I'm eating. I can't control what I'm doing. And I think now that we understand obesity is a disease and it's something that we really can't control. We don't control how our hormones work. We don't control the cells in our body. Now, what we do and how we contribute to, how our body functions, sure, we have control over that, but some things we don't have control over. And so I wanted to go, to a place where that could kind of be explained in like layman's terms. Because if you've ever talked to me, I could throw some big words out there and, I could talk with the high functioning, high level people. I can also bring it down to where people can really understand what's going on. And so, so I wanted a resource for that. And so I was hoping to find that. And, when you search Google and you research things, a lot of times they don't break things down. I think it's okay that, we need things broken down. I guess another thing is I didn't want people's unwanted opinions. I didn't want people to, to tell me what they don't know if I want to hear. Like, well, what's going to happen, this what's going to happen when you stop taking the medication. And I don't know what's going to happen when I stop taking the medication. I guess when I stop taking it, I'll find out. But for right now, I think I'm preparing myself with these great lifestyle changes and the mindset that I have to be prepared, if for one day when that happens or not, who knows? I may be on it, from here on. I think so many things are on the horizon with these medications. We have no idea, what's going to happen. And, I also think, though, don't you think that I feel like I'm still trying to figure these GLP-1 medications out. If you guys have watched my latest video, I talk about that DEXA scan I took, the last blood work. Let me back up. The last blood work I got, I was doing my like annual, and my cholesterol teetered up a little bit. It was a 188 last year, and this year is a 197, and that LDL cholesterol was up a little high. And so that prompted me for Lent, which I give up something for Lent every week. That prompted me to give up meat. And so I think I have Lent is next Thursday. I think I almost have like 7 or 8 days left on Lent. So, I'm one of those people, like, if, something's wrong, I'm a solution. I'm all about let's get a solution, fix it, and keep it moving. Keep it moving should be my motto, because I'm like, let's fix it and keep it moving. And so that's what I did for that. And then here recently, when I took the DEXA scan last week, or was it last week? The second, I believe. When I took that DEXA scan, I got information. And so now I want to have a plan in place for that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm still figuring it out. So for somebody for me to tell all these people I'm doing the whole GLP-1 thing, and I have all these questions and people asking me, well, I kind of don't know. I don't know where I'm going, where I'm headed, how things are going. I'm driving straight, and then when there's a curve in the road, I'm curving. When there's a detour, I'm detouring. And so I feel like I'm kind of in that mode where I'm, don't really know exactly what I'm doing. But I guess I do want, something. I was looking for something where I could just say to somebody, this is what it is. Now, one thing I do have is now my channel, right? My channel, my videos, and all of that. But I thought Dave's book is just going to be something I'm going to be handing out to folks. Like, you have a question, you check this book out. And a lot of my friends are like, kind of like me, like investigators. They want to find out stuff. They want to seek knowledge. And so this book is for me. And you know what? When I found out that Dave his book was back on Amazon, I was super excited. I was like, I gotta talk to him about this book. And, and I really want, people out there who, have not told their friends and family for whatever reason, and hopefully you guys are telling me in the chat what those reasons are. I really hope that, this book will, be something you can give to someone, And Dave, when I talked to Dave, he was so nice. He's like, I'll send you some book, I'll send you a book, and, you can, I'll mail you some books so you can have some books. And I told him, now that's fine too, Dave. But I told him I wanted him to, I wanted to buy it myself because I want to support him. And so one thing anybody knows about me that's friends with me or good friends with me, they know I am going to support you. And so, even though he wanted to send that book, I still wanted to buy it for myself. So I actually bought the book, and here it is. My notes and everything. So Dave's gonna come on here, and I don't know if he's ready or not. Give me a thumbs up, Dave, if you're ready. Okay. So if Dave's gonna come on here, and I'm just gonna talk to him a little bit about the book. What inspired him to write it. What motivates him anyway to be on this GLP-1 journey. He does talk about it in the book a little bit, but it's nice to hear from him and then tell us why he wrote it. And then I wonder, did he have to give it to any of his friends and family? I wondered that. And so I'm glad he's back on Amazon. I don't know. He said he changed that title around. He was able to get on Amazon. So let's bring Dave up and see what he is talking about this book. And his book is called Decoding GLP-1. I love it. So,
Hey, Shay, how are you tonight?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing better than I deserve. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So I told you, and I know you were listening in the background there. I told you I have a friend, and we talked a little bit real quick before we started. I have this friend that I'm struggling with this whole GLP-1 journey. I just don't think she supports it. I don't think she agrees with it. I don't even think she agrees that I'm on YouTube. But she's a smart lady, and I think eventually smart people have to come around, right?
Right.
And so I really want to, give her your book for her to read your book, and so, maybe she'll have like a different perspective because as I'm reading the book, it does educate you on everything GLP-1. So, before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to ask you, what inspired you to write the book in the first place?
Oh, well, thanks again for having me, Shay, and thanks for buying my book. I appreciate that. And I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about the book. I mean, it was, excuse me, I feel like the book has been like the culmination of from the community side. You're building a community over here. Many other creators are creating their own little communities. There's so many people that are getting on these medications now. And I got to say, the one thing that really tugged at my heart as I was building the community was, and we heard it in the chat from a lot of people tonight. We've heard it from you as well. It's just hard to share that part of your journey. I think part of it is because so many of us have shared this part of our weight loss journey and that part of our weight loss journey over the years. Like, I'm trying this now, I'm trying that now. And our whole like sphere of community in real life has seen us fail at those things.
Mhm.
And so it gets to a certain point where you just like, I don't know, like the last like 4 or 5 years before I got into GLP-1, I didn't even bother telling people when I was actively like engaged in some sort of diet or exercise program. I just got sick of failing. And I think what really tugged at my heartstrings is that with GLP-1s, people are actually, I always call it leveling the metabolic playing field, right? There's so much going on when you live with obesity, and it's very nuanced. It's not the same for everybody. Like, obesity is not something that's experienced the same way by everybody. It's like saying, I have cancer. Like, some people have brain cancer, some people have bone cancer, some people have blood cancer. I'm not certainly, analogizing it to cancer and how in the severity of it or urgency to treat it. But I am in the sense that it's just different for everybody. People have different sort of metabolic dysfunction going on in their body. And so they just experience obesity differently. And my heart broke because people were finally finding something that worked. And they didn't even feel like they could share it with their mom, their sister, their brother, their dad, their aunt, their uncle, whoever is important in their life. They felt like I can't share that. And that broke my heart. I'm a feeler. So I feel all the things, which is kind of hard when you're a content creator, to be honest with you, but I'm a feeler. I just am. And my heart just broke for those people in my community. And so what I decided to do is like, what I've always been told, both in the jobs that I've worked, and then that's sort of translated over to content creation, is that I have a gift of words. I can just say things in a way that resonates with people. And I was like, I need to use that gift and put it in a bite-sized little guide that somebody can just pass off and go, here, like, I can't say it, but this guy can, and here you go. And I wanted it to be, I didn't want it to feel like homework. Like, this can be read in a very short amount of time, but it's at the same time, it's very comprehensive. It's like the Cliff's Notes for GLP-1. And so the reason I wrote it was for that person who's like, I don't even know how to start this conversation with that person, but I know I want them to know, because I don't want this like wall between us of this thing that I'm doing that's changing my life for the better, right? But I don't want this wall between me and that person because I'm afraid of how they're going to respond, or I'm afraid I'm not going to say something the right way. That's why I wrote the book, and that's my heart behind it.
What that, yeah, you definitely are a feeler and emotional. I love that about you too. What's your sign? What's your birthday? Like what
Oh,
month?
yeah. June,
June. Are you a
Gemini,
Cancer?
Gemini.
Gemini. Okay, okay. I'm a Cancer. I'm a feeler too. So I can relate. And I remember seeing you talking about your wife and kids, and it was so
Mm,
touching. So yeah. Now I wanted to ask you, so you've talked to different people and you put some examples of community members in your book. I love that piece
yeah.
too, like sharing their journey and their story. What's the biggest misconception do you think that people's loved ones have about them taking this medication?
Yeah, I think it's a number of things. The media always does a really good job of promoting things that incite fear, because that keeps people coming back for the next thing. Am I going to be okay? Uh,
Mhm.
and I think that anything about these drugs related around the topic of fear. So, like, what we hear all the time is like, oh, you're going to get thyroid cancer if you try those shots because there's a black box warning. So, like, fair enough. Like, it's very easy for the media to point to a black box warning on GLP-1s. But the reality is, that warning's on there because rats given super high doses of these medications developed a very specific type of thyroid cancer. But what they don't tell you is that's never been observed meaningfully in humans, and they've been around for 20 years. And also that rats have a specific receptor on the cells of their thyroid that humans do not have. So, like, those are like the types of, like, okay, so there's a warning on it, but let's put that in context. The other thing is, like, you're going to have to be on it for life. And of course, the natural response to that is like, well, do you give your neighbor a hard time because he's on Crestor because his lipids are high? No, you don't. Nor do you say, well, now that your cholesterol's down, you're going to get off that medication that got your cholesterol down. Um, so it's just like, I think I think there's some, like, really common themes in the scare tactics that the media has used to freak people out about these drugs that are pretty easy to refute. And I've tried to bake some of those things into the book too.
And you talk about the emotional side of the weight loss, and I think that part gets lost with the family and friends. And most people, even the media, because I think most people associate weight loss with calories in, calories out. You're either eating, healthy or you're not. You're getting enough calories or you're not. You're exercising or you're not. But we all know on this weight loss journey, the emotional piece is such a big part of that. And
Yeah.
so, why do you think the family members and friends don't understand that?
Well, I mean, that's a tough one because I haven't personally experienced it to a great degree. I'm probably down about 10-12% of my body weight, and I fluctuate, there. Like, I hit that weight loss within about 4 months. I had to titrate up super fast through the doses because, surprise, surprise, they weren't all available when I was titrating up. So my doctor's like, just skip it. You're doing good. Um, so I got up to the 15 within a couple of months, and then I really maxed out really quick on what the 15 would do for me. And so I haven't lost that much weight. So for me, it's not like I have this dramatic transformation that I'm like, I don't even recognize myself when I look in the mirror. I don't have that story, but I think from an empathetic perspective, I think it's just hard for people to understand that when you live in a larger body, your entire day is like sort of planned around living in a larger body, right? It's not like the world isn't built for larger bodies. Like, I traveled for 10 years, I traveled for work in airplanes. And it got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to sit in first class because I got so sick of the looks and the scoffs. Like, I didn't choose to make the seat this wide. You know what I'm saying? And I'd
Mhm.
always try to make sure I picked the seat that was like, I could squish myself up against the side of the plane as far as I could. I made sure I never got a center seat. They don't understand. And like, even dressing yourself in the morning, like, I worked different jobs that had dress codes, and even in school, when I was in school, I was a little bit heavier. I always had a tummy. Like, tucking your shirt in is like the fat guy's natural enemy. And so, like, you're in a professional workplace and they expect you to tuck your shirt in, and it's like an exhibition. It's like, if I tuck this thing in, then it's like, you're going to see how big I really am. I'm like, everybody have a look. They just don't understand that your whole life is sort of oriented around being bigger. And when that changes for you, your whole world opens up in a way that, I think is profoundly life-changing for people. And I think it's just hard. It's like anything. It's just sometimes hard for people to empathize unless they're very intentional or unless they've walked a mile in your shoes.
So how do you think somebody can navigate that? Like the people that feel being judged, or besides giving them this book and saying, check this out so you can become more knowledgeable. How can people navigate that? Like, what do you have any suggestions for that? Or it's like somebody with me with this friend.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing it, right? And I think that's the beauty of being in a community online. I mean, to be honest, I think it's what actually it was the one redeeming quality of Weight Watchers, right? They used to have like meetings, and I realize there's a lot of like, you bring that word up, it's a trigger word for a lot of people. But I think one thing that they did have was community. Like you could go and you could sit next to a person that, when they woke up, they're experiencing the same thing. And when they had food at a family function and they would make a plate like everyone else, they got the same side eyes from everybody in the room. I can't believe they're eating cake, while everybody else is eating cake. And like, I think that community and shared experiences are so super important. That's why I think like what you're doing here is so important. What, a whole host of creators. It's been fun because like I got on this for diabetes. So I had the medication pretty early on. There wasn't a lot of this out there. And so it's just been amazing to watch communities pop up and to find their people. And I honestly think that so much of getting through this is just finding your people.
I agree. 110%. So, another thing you talk about in the book though is shifting the conversation about these GLP-1s and the news is coming out every day. There's always something. This is happening, that is happening. So, what does that shift look like for you? Like what do you think that where do you think this is going to be in like a year or two from now? And I know it's hard to make a prediction when things are happening that are so unpredictable, but where do you see the shift? Where do you see like all of this I feel like it's chaos surrounding the GLP-1,
Yeah.
not
What do you mean?
necessarily the
What do you mean?
community.
Like when you say chaos, like around the conversation, what do you mean when you say that?
I
Like, what
feel
are you
like it's
saying?
I feel like it's something different, like every day. Something's happening with the lawsuit,
Mm,
and I guess maybe that's been consistent with the lawsuits, with the compounds, with
mm,
the pricing of the meds, and then here we've heard that, which, I'm not surprised, but that Medicare, is not going to be covering these GLP-1 meds, and people thought that they were. I just think that nothing is really, consistent.
yeah.
I feel like you can't bank on it. Well, I think we can bank on what Eli Lilly's going to do, right? Share that medication or sell that medication. We just don't know how much. But I feel like because there's so much news coming out, I feel like it's a
Yeah.
little chaotic in my mind.
Yeah. I see what you're saying now. Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody who's watched On the Pen knows that like speculating is like sort of what I do. You're in my wheelhouse, so it's a good question to ask. You know, I've been bullish on 2025 being better for accessibility by the end of it than the beginning. And let me tell you why I think that is. Like, it's multiple reasons. I think the first thing is we've experienced over the last 2 years something we've never seen in pharmaceuticals before. We've seen expensive drugs before. Like, ask anybody who has cancer, ask anybody who has literally any other chronic condition. We've seen expensive drugs. We just haven't seen an expensive drugs that impacts this many people. And where there's all these online communities that are ready to just raise up an army about it, right? That's new. And I think what's happened is with the compounded versions of these medications, like they created a level of competition that pharma isn't used to. So like, you can say what you want to say about the compounds. I know some people hate them. I know some people, I saw some names in your chat. I'm like, oh, I know that name. And I love it. I love it because I love different perspectives on this thing. But I think the one thing that compounds have given us, regardless of what you think about them, is they gave pharma a level of competition that they never expected to have. And that's why you see this, like, it's war right now. I mean, they have literally an army of lawyers out there filing lawsuits and firing off cease and desist letters. By the way, I can't tell. I've never been on this side of StreamYard live. I've recorded a lot live before, but I've never been in a live, or I've recorded a lot not live in StreamYard from other people's account. Is the chat moving at all, or is the chat dead? Like, because if the chat's dead, wake it up, folks. Who's in the chat tonight?
They're listening to you. They're glued. I think they're just listening.
I'm like, give me some feedback. I know these names in the chat. I know they got something to say. I want to hear.
They are just listening. Oh my God. Normally our chat is popping. You know what? The funny thing is, I thought the same thing. I looked over. I thought, did it stall or something?
Wake it up, folks. No. I know, like, cause I know some of these names. I know they got something to say, and I love it. I love the dialogue. She said we're focused.
They're locked in, Dave. They're locked in.
So anyways, they've seen a level of competition that they're not used to. And because of that, we've seen something like Lilly Direct, $499 vials. We've seen NovoCare, $499, any dose of Wegovy. Now you can get for $499 without the insurance. Now that's not cheap. It's not affordable for most people, but at the same time, it's something different, and it is cheaper than the cash pay price that we're used to seeing. And so I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this all evolves. But I don't think we've seen the be all end all on Medicare. I think even though they dropped the previous administration's
it's like guidance. A proposal.
Yeah, they kind of gave a proposal. Like, there's weird time. It's weird how this all works, and I don't even pretend to understand it all. But like, when the Biden administration proposed it, it wasn't like time to be instituted. Like, that was always going to be into the next year, right? And then the Trump administration, of course, goes no. But I think there could be a few different things at play here, and I don't think we've seen the end of that. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all. So what they come up with will be interesting, because it was very easy for the Biden administration to go add Medicare, because they didn't have to actually deal with the numbers behind it. Although I would argue after COVID, I think it's, and all the money the government spent then, it's like, I remember sitting in my office during COVID and listening to the amount of money that the government was approving to spend on different stuff. And I go, okay. So like, the difference between $1 billion and $1 trillion is the difference between like 32 minutes and 32,000 years. Like, it's a huge, like, you're not even in the same ballpark, and they were spitting out trillions of dollars. And I remember thinking, like, I better never hear again that there isn't enough money for this or there isn't enough money for that, because like, come on now, we did it then. Like, right. And there wasn't as much at stake here with obesity. Like, the whole future of the country's at stake. The whole future of our healthcare system is at stake. If we don't fix obesity, if we don't fix metabolic disease, the whole future of our country is at stake here. And so I don't think we've heard the end on that, because it just can't possibly be. It's too big of a problem to ignore. So that's what I'm waiting for right now. I'm like, okay, so you're not going to do that. Well, what are you going to do? Because it has to be something. I also think that, kind of low key, what I'm waiting for is when Lilly feels like they've effectively shut compounds down. I do feel that there will be a natural move to lower the prices a little bit on the cash pay. And I halfway wonder if that's what this Medicare thing isn't about, because Lilly and Novo both were sort of banking on Medicare adding their medicine to Medicare formularies. I mean, just think about how much money that would be for Lilly and Novo. Like, all of a sudden it's approved by Medicare. How much bigger, does the drug get when Medicare approves it? They were kind of banking on that. And so now that this administration said no, perhaps that forces them back to the table to maybe sharpen their pencils a little bit. I don't know. But at the end of the day, the 503Bs getting shut down was like sort of the firewall, because the 503Bs are the ones that can just crank that stuff out. They're under the FDA CGMP, and they can just turn the factory lines on and crank it out. 503As are a lot different. So the fact that the 503Bs seem like they're going to lose their lawsuit, I think compounds will go away, but I'm eager for that to be resolved one way or the other, so that either we can resume 503B compounding or pharma can move on and people will start to put more pressure on their employers, more pressure on the insurance companies. And then more people get coverage for these medications. And so everybody can just be on the branded version. However, that all shakes out. I'm just eager for it to happen. And I think that's all stuff that we'll see in the next 6 months.
So you don't think though, when the compounds go away, let's just say they are gone. Now that's taking away some of the competition. We know competition brings prices down. But do you think that that's going to force Lilly to also bring the prices down a little bit more? I know when that retatrutide comes out and the pill comes out that they're working on, they definitely will, because it'll be bigger and better out there, and they definitely will probably lower the prices. But you don't think that once they don't have that competition from the compounds, that they will say, okay, we're going to lower this $4.99? You think it's going to go up higher?
No, I thought that was what you're going to say. If their competition
No.
goes away, are they going to jack the price up?
No, I don't think they will.
No, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of pressure right now on them. And I think, like one of the things that I did early on in my channel that was like, nobody was doing this anywhere on the internet, is I was following the earnings call from Eli Lilly. Like for 2 solid years, I'd listened to every earnings call. And it gave me very unique perspective, I think, to sit there glued to those things, because at first it was like, what are these people even talking about? And after a while, you start to notice patterns in the things they say and the way that they say them. And then you also notice when they change the way that they say things, I think, which gives you interesting perspective too. I think right now it's a very interesting time because there is a ton of pressure on big pharma because of this, because of your channel, because of fill in the blank, on the pen, the Downsized, like you just talk about all the different channels that are out there, and that's just YouTube. TikTok, there's thousands of creators talking about this stuff now with their own little sub communities. Like there is, like I said earlier, like an army of people that have their eyeballs on all this stuff, and they're waking up to the fact that, I think two things. I think they're waking up to the fact that pharma is happily taking advantage of a really broken system, and that PBMs are just downright robbing sick Americans of their hard-earned money and exploiting their diseases. That's going to be very hard. Like, you don't hear, when you listen to a Senate hearing, you don't hear Democrats and Republicans agreeing on much these days. But when they talk about PBMs, everybody seems to go, it's a pretty broken system. Whether the PBMs give them enough money to keep this at bay, I don't know. But it seems like there's an appetite in Washington, D.C. to continue some reform. And I'm hopeful that they'll do that. And I'm hopeful because, like, the CEO of Novo Nordisk was brought up to Capitol Hill last year by the Help Committee in the Senate, that Eli Lilly's feeling a little squirmy about having to do the same thing, especially when people are getting informed. And that's why I think it's just so important to stay engaged. One of the things, and just shut me up if I'm talking too much, because I literally, like,
we love it.
This lady invited me on her podcast today, and she's like, I want to do a pre-call because, like, she's in a totally different realm. She doesn't know anything about me, and she's asking me these questions, and I'm like, ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da ba, and I can tell her eyes are glazing over, and I'm like, listen, lady, I can talk about this. Shut me up if I'm saying too much. But I think when it comes to 2025, like, I saw so much in 2020. I saw so much in 2024 happen with the community and the explosion of all these different communities popping up. And I was like, 2025 is going to be a year of advocacy. Like, I love telling the news. I love staying informed and helping keep people informed. But at the end of the day, like, we got to have some change here. And so I am eager to advocate for change, because I think there's bipartisan appetite for some real reforms when it comes to accessibility to medication. And it's so far beyond GLP-1s. It's like, it's everything in this country.
Well, I see a super chat, but be really quick before we get to that super chat. I wanted to ask you. So when you say advocate, when I've been advocating for things, we go to the state house. Like I live in Ohio, so we go to the state house. If you're going to advocate, it's great that we're all on, YouTube and the internet, but you got to go somewhere. You got to, see. You got to actually see the representatives, and you got to go to that Capitol Hill and all of that. So have you thought about organizing something like that? Have you thought about getting people together that want to come, and people that can, really just, share their journey and be willing to sit it out, sit and wait. And, because sometimes you go to the Capitol Hill, you have some senators, if they're not, or representatives, if their term is not up soon, they might not even address you. You might go and they may not even come out. You might be speaking to, someone else. So I just, I think, especially with this election coming up in 2 years, I mean, you start now, have there been any talks of organizing people to do something like that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think there are some people that are looking at that. I mean, I think for me personally, when I think about this, I first start with what's the goal, right? So what's the goal? And in my mind, I go, the goal is to make these weight loss. I shouldn't say weight loss shots, but that's how the external world refers to them. How do we make these obesity medications affordable and accessible to everybody? Because I see this as an issue that impacts more than just our personal health. It has all sorts of socioeconomic implications. And I think, okay, so the goal is to expand accessibility to these medications. Then I think, who are the people that actually impact that? Like, whose ear do you have to bend to get a word in edgewise on what's going on in the real world with patients? And so what I've been hyper focused on for like the last 6 months, and I've been making, I mean, it probably doesn't feel like it, but I've been burning the candle at both ends. I've been continuing to create content. I've been continuing to grow on the pen, but behind the scenes, I've been creating relationships with people that know people. And so like next week, or sorry, what's today? The 9th, the week of the 20th, I'll be in Washington, DC. And I have multiple meetings set up with just power brokers, people that can talk to people, right? And people that can get us a seat at the table to really talk about how this is actually affecting people. And moreover, like, I think how it affects the country and how it positions us in the rest of the world. Cause you also have to think about who you're talking to, right? This administration is extremely focused on, this is always risky business to wade into anything political. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm trying to be an advocate. So I hope people know the difference about being partisan and being an advocate. So I think you have to know who you're dealing with. And I think that if they understood that the rest of the world is benefiting from a medication, and in some cases, like countries that don't like us that much are benefiting from accessibility to these drugs in a way that we are not, that's not right. That's not right, especially when we spend our tax dollars to develop the science behind semaglutide, developed right here in the United States, U.S. funding, U.S. taxpayer funding in Boston. So Lilly and Novo benefited from that. It took them having the gut, like the sidebar, but it took a lot of guts for Novo Nordisk to develop an obesity medicine because they knew insurance would never pay for this. I think on the Lilly side, a little bit to a lesser extent, but they've definitely benefited from the science developing off taxpayer funding. And so the fact that we develop it and then we outsource it to the rest of the world to be healthier, like we need to level that playing field. And I think this administration will hear that in those words, right?
Okay.
If nothing else. You could say people are struggling, have obesity and they're dying early, you know, all that is like one in ear out the other, because like lots of people are dying from lots of things. But if they understand that like other countries are getting stronger, they're reducing the cost of their healthcare system by taking the burden off of their healthcare system, by having fewer people with diabetes, fewer people with heart disease, fewer people with sleep apnea, fewer people with osteoarthritis, and a healthier population. Meanwhile, we're like, you know, we got this broken system, but I don't know what we're going to do about it. Well, it's time to do something about that. And at least if you're going to have a bowl in a China shop for an administration, at least you could be like, hey, why don't you break these dishes over here? You know, I think that's the goal right now, honestly.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I love when you get passionate. Like we're all passionate about. We're all like glued in. We're locked in because we're all passionate about this.
100%.
Mel B, thank you for the super chat. Mel says Biden's administration was invested in lowering drug costs, in addition to capping insulin for Medicare at $35, in their Inflation Reduction Act made it possible for Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Yeah, Mel. Thanks for that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the Inflation Reduction Act is a mixed bag. I think the Inflation Reduction Act, if you talk to anybody, again, going back to these Lilly earnings calls and the Novo earnings calls, you know, their big thing with the Inflation Reduction Act is a lot of the stuff that was baked into that Medicare negotiation handcuff them. This is their perspective, handcuff them from a research and development standpoint. Now, at the same time, you have Lilly and Novo, who both spend more in advertising in the United States than they spend in research and development. So I honestly think that, and you could also go back to, I mean, Mel's sort of opening up a can of worms here, which I love, because I love talking to other people because I can just like envision her talking to her computer screen as passionately as I'm talking to mine, which I love. I think that the you go back to Lilly and Novo and the lawsuits that really ultimately brought down the price, like Lilly brought down the price of their insulin products to I think $25 or $35, because they lost a lawsuit which basically said that they were basically colluding with Novo Nordisk to keep the prices of insulin high, right? It sounds awfully familiar. Honestly, to me, it sounds awfully familiar, because we've seen Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly put campaigns out about compounding that sound exactly the same. And then we've seen them also, you know, Lilly launches the single dose vials of Zepbound for $499 a month for the 10 milligram dose of Zepbound, $499 a month. 10 milligrams of Zepbound is a lot better in the clinical trials than the high dose of Wegovy. But then Novo Nordisk comes out with Wegovy for $499 a month, the same price as Lilly came out with. But Wegovy's now a generation old. This is 15% weight loss, 10% weight, or 10%, or excuse me, 10 milligrams of Zepbound in the clinical trials was like 20% weight loss. And so it's like, tell me why they're the same price. It's because, you know, it just stinks of collusion. And so all of that investigation was done under the first Trump administration to try to, so everybody has like a different way of attacking all of these things. Right. And at the end of the day, we still left with the same system. I wish that the government should 100% be arbitrating the cost of these medications. It's the biggest purchaser of medications in this country. So why are they not arbitrating the cost of this? But, you know, we're also the biggest innovator of drugs in the world. And so we're always fighting this tension of how do we have enough money to develop drugs and come up with the next best thing. Because guess what? I'm sitting in front of you right now as a type 2 diabetic who tirzepatide ain't it for me. And so I thank God that there's researchers wherever their money's coming from and whoever's putting money in their bank account. I thank God that those people are there getting their paycheck and coming up with something better, right? We don't want to stifle that. At the same time, we need to have the rest of the world pay their fair share for that to happen. It's like, because they're going to benefit from it too, and they're going to get it cheaper. So it's like everybody has their different way of kind of approaching this. And it's kind of like there's more than one way to skin a cat type of deal. And so I think the way that I see it right now is that this administration definitely comes at this from a whole different perspective. But I think if they accomplish would be huge is if they actually get drug companies to not be able to advertise their drugs in the United States. It's like one of 2 countries in the world where it's legal to actually advertise prescription drugs and pay for the advertising of prescription drugs. And like I said earlier, Lilly and Novo Nordisk both have higher budgets for advertising than they do for research and development. So if we could get rid of that, we open up a lot of opportunity, I think, for them to refocus their efforts, because people will talk about drugs that change their life. If we aren't the biggest example of that in the history of medicine, I don't know what is.
Yes, exactly. That's a drop the mic moment. Drop the pen, Dave. Drop the pen. Delilah says, real talk. Why do they need to? If compounds can't do as they do now, they are the only patent in town. So truly, I'm curious because this is all I think about.
I got to read that one again. Why do they? I think she maybe dropped that comment in response to something. Why do they need to what?
Yeah, that will.
Yeah, bring the price down. If compounds can't do as they do now, they are the only patent in town. So, so she's. I think what she's wondering is if the cost of if compounds go away, the competition for the branded goes away. So why would they bring the price down? And that's where I go back to. I think because we're in a very unique time where they're under a microscope, and at any time they're going to be called up to Capitol Hill to testify on that stuff. And we're going to watch. That's the difference. I think people are watching. There are 100 million people living with obesity. And I got to admit, or I've got to guess that there's been at least 50 million people who have experienced the benefits of these medications by now. People are going to be watching and tuning in, and they don't want that. And so I don't think they're going to do anything. I think everything they do is very calculated from a PR perspective right now, because they're towing a very fine line.
You do? Because I think who is their I want to be their PR person. Who is their PR person?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yes, you're right. It's I think I have a little bit of insight. I have a little bit of insight into that, because for a while I was trying to work with Lily. I was trying to say, listen, let's you got a story to tell here, tell it, because I do believe I am fiery passionate. I'm so thankful for Eli Lilly. I'm not. People always want me to be over here, or they want me to be over here. And it's if I'm not, or if they get the sense that I'm too far over here or too far over here, listen, I get confused, or I get accused of being MAGA, and I get accused of being a bleeding heart liberal, and I get accused of everything. And I'm at the end of the day, I am passionate about sick people getting care. And without Eli Lilly and without Novo Nordisk, we got nothing. We got nothing. So I'm not a pharma hater. I love that they've developed this stuff. But at the same time, it's the system that deserves our ire, the focus of our anger should be at the system and changing a broken system. And so that's definitely what gets me fired up, is just the system is so stinking broken, and nobody seems to have an appetite to change it.
I would agree with that. Dave, the Turtle Diaries weight loss says, Dave, what's your best advice for us compound users going forward, especially those who can't afford the branded meds at the current price point?
Yeah. So Turtle, what I would be curious to know is, because I think that's a really broad answer that's hard to, everybody's got a different situation. So what I would be interested to know is, how much right now are you paying for branded or for compound, and are you on semaglutide or are you on tirzepatide? If I know the answer to either of those two questions, I think I can probably give you the best advice. Now, if the question is at the end of the day, if the question is really how long am I going to be able to get my compound? Because I kind of think that's I don't believe in my heart of hearts that compounds are just going to go away overnight. I've never thought that they're just going to go away. Again, I view this, the best analogy that I can tell you is I view it like a faucet. So if you imagine you turn your garden hose on and it's on full blast, spraying all the way across the yard, like what's happening is just and it's getting turned down, and pretty soon it's just going to kind of be trickling out the end. But it's never going to be completely off, because 503A pharmacies have always had sort of a mandate within the federal code to make custom doses, custom formulations, right? So with that said, I don't think they're going to completely go away. You're just going to have to look a lot harder for them. And you're probably going to have to move around from wherever you're getting it now. So Turtle Diaries is paying $329 for 15 milligrams of tirzepatide. Now, if you look at what you can get 10 milligrams of tirzepatide for right now is $4.99. I would imagine, and this is like, I guess I'll put on my my fortune telling hat. Like by the end of this year, certainly we'll have 15 milligram vials. The question is, do they come out at $4.99 a month? I think they do. Now, if they do, it should force, if there's no collusion in pricing, there should force down the price of Wegovy 2.4 from $4.99 to, let's say, $3.99, because Novo has to try to stay competitive here, right? Mm-hmm. But maybe not. Maybe there's enough people that will take what they can get and they'll still pay that amount. But I would think that $4.99 a month, 15 milligram tirzepatide would force down the price in some sense for the 2.4 milligrams of Wegovy. Now, 2.4 milligrams of Wegovy is not a great option if you're on 15 milligrams of tirzepatide, but $499 tirzepatide for 15 milligrams, if you're paying $329, is certainly better than going from $329 tirzepatide to like $650 where the savings card is. So at least you've got something, but if you can't afford that $160 jump, I do think that compounds will still be found, tirzepatide 15 milligrams plus B12, or 15 milligram tirzepatide, or maybe even like you see Mochi, they do like 16.25 milligrams, a custom dose. I think you'll still be able to find that somewhere. But because it'll become more scarce, does the cost of compound go up? It's all supply and demand. So we'll have to see how that all shakes out, but you'll be somewhere between $499 and where you're at now. I think it's just going to be harder to find.
Well, as a follow-up, Mel says, we can't bully or compel other countries to pay more. No one likes us. That doesn't help. The tariffs, we need to address our issues at home, big pharma, PBMs, conflict of interest.
Yeah, Mel, we've needed to address that for a long time. I guess where I come back is my hope for that happening isn't super high. Who is, if we're not going to leverage this fact that we're the largest economy in the world to get a better outcome for our citizens, what are we going to do? Because certainly in my 40 years, I have seen very little progress. That said, I think it's a valid concern. Like, would other countries pay? But I think, Mel, like, you got to think of it like people in England, people in Canada, people in Australia are just like you and me. They're desperate for this stuff too. So if all of a sudden their country goes, well, the US isn't paying their fair share anymore, so now we have to pay more for Mounjaro, so we're just not going to offer it to you. What do you think their citizens are going to do? I mean, they're going to have not a lot of options. So when you say you can't bully or compel other countries to pay more, first of all, I don't think it's bullying for somebody we're being taken advantage of, Mel. American citizens are being taken in when our system pays 3, 4, 5 times the amount the rest of the world. Who's being bullied? We're not being the bullies here. We're getting kicked around. We're laying on the floor and say, why don't you kick us around a little bit? So that's my take on it, is I don't think we're being bullies by asking other countries with similar economies to pay similar prices to what we pay here.
So, and I agree with that. But when you think about it, so I don't know if it was Germany that just came out. I can't remember what country, but they are supposedly paying $199 for their Zepbound. So I don't think Eli Lilly or Lilly, I say Eli Lilly still, I don't think they go to Germany and say, oh, we're only going to charge them $199, but we're going to come to the US and we're going to charge you $499. There's a reason why our prices are so high over here. And so I don't think that, I think if they had the same system we had, they'd be charging them high prices too. I don't think that other countries are getting, favoritism or anything. I just think over here, we made it so difficult to cut the red tape. Like, everybody has to get their cut. And by the time everybody gets their cut, the price for us is so high. So, because I think the misconception out there is that
are you saying that it's our system that's causing us to pay?
I think so.
I agree.
think it's our system. Yeah, for sure. Because I think, now Eli Lilly, of course, they probably want their, as much profit out of it as they can get. But I think it has to be a reason why somebody else in Germany is paying $199 and we're having to pay $499. And I don't think that's just because we're America. I think that's because of all the red tape that comes with our system. It's not, I think, I don't know. So people are paying direct, though. The people who pay direct, to Eli Lilly, why can't they be charged a cheaper price?
Right. Well, that just goes to show you that the drug companies are taking advantage of Americans, because okay, so there's two parts of this, and I think both are worthy of talking about. Like, when you say it's a system, I agree, but the system hasn't changed meaningfully in my entire lifetime. In fact, when the system did change with Obamacare, it gave us super ultra powerful PBMs, which are part of the reason that the drug costs are so inflated, because what we've learned is that the PBMs with many of these drugs are taking up to 70% of the cost of the medication just to add it to their formulary. It's a big pay for play scheme, and it's basically legalized corruption. Right. So it is the system. The system has to change. But that's where I go, when and how and who. So what can happen now? Well, with a country like Germany, the government arbitrates the cost of the medication. The government goes, just like PBMs do here, right? The PBM goes to the drug company and they say, all right, you want a diabetes medication on our form? You want access to our 5, 10, 20, 30 million patients? Then you're going to give us a obesity medicine and you're going to give it to us for $700 because we're going to offer it for, X, and then they're going to take their cut. That's how the PBMs work. That's how the governments are arbitrating over in Germany. They're going, you want to sell your drug to our 30 million citizens, then you're going to give it to us for this price. And that's where I go, if all of a sudden they yanked Wegovy from Germany and yanked tirzepatide from Germany, what do you think their citizens are going to say? Would they rather pay their $199 a month, or would they pay $399 a month so that Americans can also pay $399 a month? Because like, to your point, the cash pay price over here, $599 or $499 a month for the cash pay price. That means they eliminated all the brokenness and corruption in the system, and they're still overcharging us. So don't stand there and tell me that it's just the PBMs. They're the only reason that we're paying more. They're not. There's also Big Pharma making a calculation that Americans are going to pay it. And what I'm saying is, so will the people of Germany, so will the people of Australia, and so will the people of Canada. If the countries they just don't have as much leverage as they think that they have. If the drug companies were forced to go back and say, guess what? America's not going to pay what they're going to pay anymore for these medications. So if you want this, you can't pay as much, or you can't pay as little as you have been. And then they go, no, we're not going to pay it. And so now Canadians can't get tirzepatide. Now Australians can't get tirzepatide. So like, it's a different way of looking at this, because I agree with you. Like, option A is reform our system. That is 100% option A. But like, I just never heard a good solution to that. And I've never heard, at least, and by good, I mean something that will actually pass and something that will actually meaningfully change. Because again, what Obamacare did was a lot of really good things, right? Like, pre-existing conditions finally got covered. Praise the Lord. I mean, literally praise the Lord that we have a system now that doesn't leave sick people on the margins like our former system did. But it also, because it was largely influenced by insurance companies, because what they had to do was cap how much insurance companies could make. So basically the Obamacare Act said insurance companies can now only make 15% profit. Everything else you got to put back into the company to make it more efficient, or you have to pay it back in claims.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did they do? They bought PBMs. All the insurance companies bought PBMs, and then they go, that's where we're going to make up that difference. And so then they gatekeep the drug formularies, and they inflate the costs of our pharmaceutical drugs by saying, if you want to pay, we do negotiate drug costs in this country, but private industry negotiates it for the benefit of private industry. In Europe, Germany arbitrates the cost of drugs for the benefit of Germans. Canada arbitrates the cost of medication for the benefit of Canadians. We're the only country that has private industry, and they do it for the benefit of themselves.
Of the private industry. Well, Mel has another super chat. She says, it's our, let me emphasize that, it's our government's fault we're paying more. Big Pharma has too much power. Canada is a single payer system while ours is market driven. That's the problem.
For-profit healthcare is wildly problematic. Because
Yes.
then it exists not for the betterment of society. And there's one side has to go there. There's a social element to this, the same way there's a social element to building roads and hospitals and bridges and whatever, right? Because if there was no government funding for the development of drugs, why ever develop a cancer drug? Right? Why ever do that? There's only, a small amount of the population that deals with unique and rare forms of cancer. Why do they develop that? Because the government gives them money to do it. Right? As they should. It's a public-private partnership that takes place. And so we've gone with this hybrid system, but you've got one side over here that screams socialized medicine and death panels every time somebody wants to change the system. And it's like, what that gives us is death panels, just the privatized versions. Like, you know what I mean when I say death panels? Like that was the big argument when Obamacare was trying to be passed back when I was a much younger man, much lighter, much more hair. They were trying to pass Obamacare, and people were like, we don't want death panels, because in other countries, basically when you get to like 80 or 90 and you've got something that's going to take your life, then there's really like literally panels that go, okay, so this person's this old, we only have this much money. This money has to go somewhere else. Like that person doesn't get their treatment unless they want to go get it privatized somewhere else. Like that's what everybody was screaming about with Obamacare. If we get socialized medicine, we're going to have death panels. Well, guess what? We have death panels in this country. When people are denied by PBMs their life-saving cancer drugs because a PBM doesn't want to cover it, that's a death panel. So don't give me that nonsense anymore. Like we're just getting it from private enterprise. And guess what? Private enterprise people can't get voted out. A politician, when that process gets too ugly, a politician can get voted out. Change can get voted in. You can't do that with private enterprise the same way that you can with public health.
Well, Mimi says we still pay quite a high price in Australia. $689 for Mounjaro. Oh, what is that? The quick pen, 15 milligrams, 4 doses times 0.6 what is that, milliliters?
Yeah, 6 milliliters. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So the interesting thing that Lilly has done, and I've noticed this in other countries, is they've launched tiered pricing. So in the United States, like at least with the list price with Mounjaro, it's like the same price across all the doses. In Australia, you have to pay $689 for Mounjaro, 15 milligrams. But Mimi, what do you pay for 2.5, 5, 10, whatever, 12.5? They're paying probably very low amount of money for 2.5, a little bit higher for 5. Like it goes up with the dose. Okay. So I'm curious to know what that is. And I think they've done that again as kind of a PR thing, right? To manage it so that those numbers aren't quite as disparaging between the different countries. But I see Mel posted another question. And
Mel, back with it. Dave, she's like, I'm not letting, we're going to have this discussion tonight. Mel says, I believe in the path of least resistance, not a fight with other countries. I like what Gnome's CEO proposed on your channel. Thoughts? Okay, I'm done, y'all. No, Mel, we love it. We love it.
yeah, no, I don't don't be done. She's probably done because she's like, I spent all my money on super chats. Okay, so two things. So like the first thing I would like to know, I feel like Mel and I need to talk. But the first thing I'd like to know is, what is the path of least resistance? Okay, what the Noom CEO proposed could be arguably a path of least resistance. So yesterday I had the honor of interviewing the CEO of Noom, who just put out this big piece in the Wall Street Journal and basically said, here's my proposal. My proposal is this, that we create through executive order, which Trump could just sign, or it doesn't even have to be an executive order. The FDA could just reinterpret the statutes that already exist within the FDA and develop a, what did he call it, Mel? He called it like I'm going to paraphrase, an expensive drug list. So this would be a special list of drugs that were 2 times the cost of everywhere else in the world that has similar economies. So the ones we always cite, Canada, Germany, Australia, right? So if we're paying in the United States twice what they're paying in the rest of the world, then those drugs would get put on a special list, and any drug on that list could be compounded by compound pharmacies at any time for any reason because they're on that list. So it's basically an incentive for drug companies to price their medications at a competitive rate. And it's like, if you watch the interview, it reminded me of the previous Trump administration's move to a program called Most Favored Nation status. And that was a plan that was reversed by the Biden administration that was looking at, similar to his plan, was looking at the rest of the world, and it was saying, okay, similar economies, the United States never pays more for a medication than those countries are paying. No. So that was most favored nation status, which is sort of similar to what the CEO of Noom proposed, though he did it under a much easier path, that the FDA could just reinterpret some things and come up with their own list, or they could do an executive order. I think that his idea was better because his meaning Noom, Jeff Cook, the CEO of Noom. I thought it was better for this reason, because I think that what gets lost in this conversation is that, like, people go into their corners. Like, I'm either pro compound or anti compound. Listen, I'm pro people getting treatment for disease. And it's become very obvious that compounded versions, especially the 503Bs that have FDA oversight, work very well for people, very well for people. And so with that as the backdrop, 503Bs were created to protect the national security, basically. If anything ever got squirrely geopolitically, that we would have infrastructure in this country to make antibiotics, right? We don't want kids dying from strep throat. So we need infrastructure to make that. And if y'all saw my interview with Lee Rosebush, he's the chairman of the OFA. They're the ones that are suing Lilly and suing the FDA over ending the shortages, which ended 503B compounding. He's like, it's like they want us when there's a shortage, and then when the shortage is over, we've got no business. So how are we supposed to continue to operate at a scale that can meet the demand when there's a shortage, when it just ebbs and flows like that? They need some consistency to their business in order to exist. And I think it's so important that 503Bs exist, because when there were shortages of antibiotics that came from overseas and we weren't getting them, who made them? 503Bs made them. When there were shortages of the medications that they give women during childbirth, Who stepped in and filled that gap? 503Bs filled that gap. If you've ever been in a hospital and received an IV bag, that came from a compound pharmacy. They fill that gap. So we need them to be able to turn on and turn off like on a dime to make sure that people have access to medicine. So I think whatever happens needs to also address that. And for that reason, I like what Jeff Cook proposed with Noom.
Okay, very good. So here are the prices. Mimi says 2.5 is 279, 5 is 389, and 10 is 539. Wow, 539.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
So the 10 is about $40. Mimi, is that American dollars, I assume? Mimi's awesome, by the way. If you're not, well, Mimi, I don't think really makes content, but Mimi has been on the Pen Live a couple times. She's in the retatrutide trial, and she is amazing. One of
Isn't she in your book? Is
yeah,
that the
yeah,
yes? Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, she is. But okay, so if you look at that, like $279 a month for 2.5, we charge $349. And that's down from, I believe, $399, right?
Not US dollars.
Okay. So what is that in US dollars? So curious. That would be helpful to know. But regardless, they're paying less. Less than we are here for the lower tier doses. And then when you get to the higher tier doses, TBD. And I think that's part of this. That's part of the equation. Like part of why we don't have 15 milligram dose vials is because managing the PR around all this is part of what the game that they're playing too. Right. You just saw like Lilly launched Mounjaro in India, and the big takeaway, $1 Australian is 61 cents in US dollars. So about 40% of each of those numbers is what they're paying. So if you look at,
wow,
$200, for example, is about $120 US.
Jeez Louise.
So it's considerably less. It not as much as some, see, that's the other side of this, is like not as much as some people would want you to believe. Like it's very easy to come up with a talking point that says they pay 5 times what we pay in the US. Yes and no. That's because you have the list price here. The list price of Mounjaro, let's say, is $1,100, but nobody's paying $1,100 for a Mounjaro in the United States. Cash, right? If you have insurance, you have either some form of copay, and if you don't, you have the savings card, so you're paying $550. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's paying $1,100, but that is cost to our system. It's costing somebody that amount of money. So we're paying for it somewhere, whether it's insurance premiums or what have you. But at the end of the day, we know that it's not just the PBMs that are taking their cut, because the $500 that it costs for the vials is still more than they're paying in the other countries. So
Delilah says Mexico pays $199 a month. Most people in Mexico who are well paid make less than $10 a day. At least that's what my family makes there. Most make half of that a day. Ew.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. You have to take into consideration like what they make in these other economies. So like when they launched in India, they launched vials for like $50 a vial, still $200 a month. Like think about what people make in India. So high price drug list. That's what he called it. So he
wants a high price drug list.
And he defined that as drugs that are twice their production. No, I don't think he twice their production cost. He said? Was it the production cost that he said, or was it the other countries? I can't remember. It's all running together in my head, and I think off the cuff, and I don't have notes. So that's the thing about me, is I just like all of this is up here. So sometimes I'd say things that aren't 100% accurate because there was a lot of years where I spent damaging brain cells, if you know what I mean. So not everything always fires at 100% here.
No, do you ever sit back and just think like, how did I get myself so caught up in all this? Do you ever sit back and think like, why?
I don't think why. I do think how. How did this happen? The why is just like, I care. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. I'm just a feeler. Like, I want better. My dad died when he was 54 years old of a massive heart attack. And my dad wasn't even a fat guy. He was a smoker. He smoked like a chimney, but, still he died at 54. Like, when I think, like, I've had 14 years to process that. And he died when I was 26. But like, I think of my kids, like, I don't want to leave them high and dry. I feel that. And so I want to know, like, I have diabetes, I have high blood pressure, I have high cholesterol, I'm overweight, all these things. Like, it ain't looking good for me. And I've yo-yo dieted, lose 30 pounds, gain 40 pounds every year. And now even with tirzepatide, I'm down 30, but like, now I'm yo-yoing at, the weight that tirzepatide got me to. So I'm looking at it like, what's next? Like, because something in me is so metabolically broken. And like, if y'all haven't checked it out, like, I know there's a lot of people that follow me, they kind of see me as the news guy. I don't do like a lot of that personal touchy feely stuff, because honestly, it just sucks to share your story when it just isn't working for you like it does for the 120,000 people that follow you across the different platforms, right? It's hard. But health.com just did a video about my story that really, like, my family's in it. And it's like, if y'all want to get a flavor of my story, they did such a good job. Like, I spent all morning yesterday in tears when they dropped it, because I was like,
now this is online at justhealth.com.
Yeah. So, I try to think of the best way to get people to it, but, yeah, if you go to health.com and go in the search and type beyond obesity, then you'll find it. But
so let me ask you, because I remember you talked to this one doctor, and I watched that interview several times. I trying to just piece together what he was saying and the advice he was giving you. And you talked about your keto story and how you had been on keto. I think you're ketoed out, like a lot of us are Weight Watchers.
Ketoed out, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
so
that's a good analogy.
You entertained the idea of having bariatric surgery.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember he was talking you through like calories and what you're eating and all that. What decision, did you decide to go? And then I used to talk to the fat guy no more, I think.
Yeah.
You had him, or then somebody else had bariatric surgery. You were thinking about going that route, and then I don't know whatever happened with that. Because then I feel now like you got on this tirzepatide, and that started to move you again. And so maybe you lost that whole surgery. So where do you stand on all that?
So yeah, I mean, like, tirzepatide is what I started on, and I maxed out, and then I went to Ozempic for a little bit, and then I went back to tirzepatide. The current class of medications aren't it for me. They don't do for me what they do for other people, right? That's just the reality of it. And people will hypothesize all day about why that is and tell me all the things I need to do. And I just want to be like, shut up. Shut up. That's what everybody told you before you found tirzepatide and it works. So why don't you just shut your mouth? That's how I feel about it. I don't often comment back like that, but just know when you comment like that, that's how I feel. But I will say, like, I've always considered bariatric surgery. So one of the things that I got to do over the last couple months is interview a CEO. So to back up, I don't want to have bariatric surgery.
Okay.
I don't want to rewire everything, but I'm open to it. That was the first thing my doctor offered to me before he even offered me Mounjaro. He's like, you need to have bariatric surgery. I did a full year of keto. A1C was great. Glucose numbers were flatlined. All good. He's like, but you probably need to get bariatric surgery because you only lost 7 pounds in a year. I was like, well, if it means I'm going to be alive for my kids, great, I'll do it. And honestly, a lot of studies that come out still show bariatric surgery, at least, and there's lots of different kinds, but the best forms of bariatric surgery are still highly effective and more efficacious than the medicines we have now. I think that's all going to change in the future, which is why I've kind of held out, because I'd rather not live the rest of my life with rearranged anatomy. That just doesn't seem ideal to me. No shade to anybody who's done it, because I labor over this still. every day. Should I do it? Should I do it? But anyway, I interviewed a CEO from a company called Fractal Health a couple times over the last month, including last week. And they're working on a couple things that are like this kind of halfway point between bariatric surgery and the medicines that we're on. So two things, and they're super exciting. Like, this is stuff that gets me geeked up. See, I'm lighting up again because like this is what keeps me engaged. This is why I continue to make content, because I need it. I need the future of all this. I almost wonder, like, if I got something tomorrow that worked, would I still show up the way that I do now? You know what I'm saying? Or would I just like live my life now? But the Fractal Health stuff, so it's two things that they offer, and I'm going to be very quick with this. One is a gene therapy. Both of these are 45-minute endoscopic procedures. They just go in through your throat, down through your guts, and they two different things they do. The first thing that they do is called a duodenal mucosa relining. So the duodenum is the little section between your stomach and your gut. And the lining of your duodenum is like super smart. It senses the nutrients that you just ate and starts to fire off a whole bunch of signals to make all sorts of hormones. Of course, these hormones are all associated with satiety, feelings of fullness. It's hunger signaling. What they found is that people who are diabetic, people who are obese, the gut lining is so screwed up and the cells are so screwed up from the foods that we eat that if they just go in and use a little hot water to it's kind of like a face peel, but for the gut lining of your duodenum, your cells grow back in about 2 days. And then all of a sudden people's weight starts to drop because there's been a balance of these hormones that weren't balanced before because the cells were broken. So that's one thing that they're working on, and they're actually checking it out right now in people who get to 15% weight loss with tirzepatide. Can they maintain after going off tirzepatide with this? The second thing that they're working on, which is even more exciting, but is going to freak some people out, is the same similar procedure they go through, but they go through your throat, endoscopic procedure, 5-minute outpatient thing, but they reprogram your pancreas in a way that uses genetics so that your body produces a whole bunch more GLP-1 when you eat than you normally do. So It's like having the shot, but you never have to have a shot, and it goes away so you can eat. But when you eat, you get these feelings of fullness very fast. And they've only studied it in pigs so far. So it's in preclinical trials. But in pigs, they gave them semaglutide 2.4, and they gave them this thing. Pigs lose way more weight, and they maintain it. So that's the two things that Fractal Health is. So I look at the future of obesity medicine, and you could talk about retatrutide and CagriSema and all the utides that are coming out in the next 10 years. Those are the reasons that I think like I've like chilled out on not wanting to have bariatric surgery.
Okay.
The future is so bright. It's like, why rearrange everything?
It is. I think you have a year and a half to 2 probably before that comes up, but you can do it. And you're still, you're losing. You look good though. Can't you see the difference in yourself? Do you see the difference?
Well, I go up and down. So I got to about 276 has been my low. So I started at 319 when I was diagnosed with diabetes. I did a year of keto and I went down to 312. Right. And then from there, I went on Mounjaro, got all the way down to 276, regained back because I titrated up to 15 really fast. And after a few months on 15, it was like game over. And so then my weight started to creep back up from 276 to 290 all the way. And it went all the way up to the mid 290s again. And then I just buckled down again and then got it back down to like 276. And like, I've been stacking different got peptides all over my, like, not injectable peptides, but like over the counter peptides that I've taken to try to help me, stack with this. Like, I don't take any research grade or anything like that, but I could. The good news for me is we're at April 9th right now. 1 year from now, we'll have CagriSema. And I'm very excited about that one because I think that's going to be a good one for diabetics. So, can I see the difference in myself? Not really. I mean, because I still feel like I'm still on that yo-yo. Like, everybody's like, I've given up yo-yo dieting. I've given up diet culture. And I'm like, that's really great that you've been able to do that. For a while, I thought I was going to be able to too, because the first 6 months on Mounjaro, it didn't matter what I ate. It's just because I didn't eat that much because I didn't need it. But at a certain point, the drug was just like, I'm done working. And so I don't know what would happen. I think if I went off of it completely, I think I'd go back up to that 319 probably. So what I have to keep perspective on is what it is giving me is it's giving me the ability to stay down, and typically like I'm stay about the 280s, the low 280s, which is still about 40 pounds down from my highest weight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I might go up to 290 and I may go down to 275, but that's where I'm living right now. With
and what dose do you take?
15.
Oh, you're at the 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And so what I have to remember is it still gave me 40-pound weight loss. And for now 2 years plus, I've been able to maintain 40-pound weight loss instead of doing what I did every year, which was lose 30 and gain 40, lose 30 and gain 40, lose 30 and gain 40. It at least stopped that pattern. And it's brought me down 40 pounds, which is from my, well, I mean, I did the first 7 without, but 40 pounds from my highest. And that is a gift because that's still what, like 12% of my body weight, which is pretty close to what medications do for these medications do for diabetics. Because people forget I'm diabetic too, like severely diabetic. And so I think, I have to remember that perspective because I don't have this dramatic weight loss story to share with people.
Now, let me ask you, and you may not know because this is just a study you published in the book, but I was curious about this, and maybe because you're all in with the investigation on these meds. Let me see if I can find it. But they did a study because I'm diabetic also, and so I'm in the pre-diabetic range right now. So, and what they did a study, and they compared the weight loss with I want to say semaglutide and tirzepatide, but let me find this study, but it didn't. Here it is. So they compared the weight loss at the 15 milligram dosage. And so it was the Surmount trials, right? And so it said up to 22.5% of your body weight, but it was over 72 weeks. Now, if you had type 2 diabetes, they did the Surpass trials. And those trials that you lost up to 15%. And we all know, we've heard that if you're diabetic, the rate of your weight loss is slower. But the over the weeks was only 40 to 52 weeks. And I thought, how is that a fair comparison if it's not the same amount of weeks? So that just kind of threw me off there. Do you know anything about that? Is there a reason why that
Surpass and the Surmount trial were different?
Only went up to 2 weeks.
So yeah, I can tell you right now. So first of all, that's a keen observation because I don't know that I've ever dialed in on that difference in the length in the two trials. Always that percentage is a spectrum. So you have some people that lost 10% and you have some people that lost 30%, right? Or, even with tirzepatide, you see people with higher amount. So what I think the deal is here is that when they design these trials, it's all about coming up with better numbers than what came before it. So you can charge more money for it. So when you look at Wegovy, 2.4 milligrams was a 68-week trial to get to about 50% weight loss. So if they would have done the Surmount trial for weight loss with Zepbound, I'm trying to find my pins here, but if they would have done the Surpass trial for Zepbound, and they would have quit at 52 weeks, they wouldn't have gotten better results than Wegovy. So they spread it out to show you continue to lose weight the longer you're on it. And Wegovy only had to compare itself to Saxenda, which pretty much sucked. It wasn't hard to get better results than the 10% because semaglutide was such an improvement over liraglutide, but to improve over Ozempic, they had to show a higher number. And so when they go, we get 22.5 and Wegovy's like, well, we get 15. I just think that it's all about being better than what came before it. And with Mounjaro, they're just looking for better reductions in A1C, and the weight loss is sort of like a secondary benefit, but their primary endpoint is a reduction in A1C for the diabetes trial, where in the Surmount trial, it's weight loss.
Weight loss. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was thinking, like, they don't have the same amount of weeks here. What's going on? We have a question from Nerd Startup Incubator. I hear orforglipron, did I say that right? Is coming out next year too. 15 milligrams at least is helping you maintain a healthy A1C. Any appetite suppression, would your doctor allow you to take Mounjaro every 5 to 6 days? So have you, I want to say you played around with that.
Oh yeah, I've played around with all of it.
Yeah.
Listen, I feel a great responsibility to be careful about what I say, but infer what you will with this statement. I played around a bit. And that said, I don't think higher doses of tirzepatide are it for me. And I've talked to literally some of the freaking smartest obesity doctors that are out there, because I've had the chance to network with these people. And most of what I'm hearing is it's obesity, and controlling obesity through reducing energy intake is modulated by different pathways in your body. And so for some people that's GLP-1, and some people that's GIP, but for other people it's going to be amylin, other people it's going to be glucagon, other people it's going to be other hormones that are sort of triggering the satiation signal stronger in your body. And so just sort of the belief that for some people it's just genetically different. There's a medication called petrolinitide. Most people haven't heard of it. It's called Invicry. It's been out for like a long time, like 10 years, but raise your hand in the comments if you ever heard of Invicry. Chances are you haven't, but it's a peptide used for weight loss. And it's used because there's a very specific genetic malformation in some people that causes obesity. So they can take Invicry and it's super helpful, but some people would take Invicry, petrolinitide, and it would do nothing. So it's sort of the same thing here. Is like for most people, those signaling pathways through GLP-1 and GIP are going to be it. For other people, they're not going to be it. So orforglipron coming out. So first of all, I always get a kick out of that name, Nerd Startup Incubator. But I failed to make the connection of what orforglipron had to do with the 15 milligram comment. 15 milligram is at least helping you maintain a healthy.
I think she was just addressing your statements about your own weight loss journey after that.
Yeah, the doctor would probably allow me to play around because the higher doses of Mounjaro are in clinical trials or whatever. But orforglipron's not going to be it for diabetics. I mean, weight loss with orforglipron is going to be much less than it is with tirzepatide. I'm much more looking forward to CagriSema from Novo Nordisk, which will come out about the same time as orforglipron in 2026.
So that's coming soon. Any more questions in the chat? Did you see any? Can you see the chat? You can see the chat. Okay. Yeah. I didn't see any questions. Does anybody have any more questions? For Dave. Dave, you are awesome. I like how you get fired up.
I get worked up, and I talk a lot too. Like I felt so bad talking to this lady today who wanted me on her podcast, and I was like, she just did not know about these medications or obesity. And she's like, well, don't people get cancer? And like, so she was saying all the things. And I was like, let me educate you a little bit. Like, first of all, what's your address? I'm sending about 6 books. But yeah, I get fired up about this because it's outside of my wife, my children, and my Jesus. This is the number one thing that that consumes me, because I want to be around longer for my kids than my dad was for me. And when I think about, and this is the part that always gets me a little emotional, because when I think about the people within the
now wait, Dave, don't have me doing an ugly cry on here, because I'll cry with you.
You'll watch my you can go watch my my health.com video. That made me ugly cry for a little bit. But when I think about the again, across the platforms, it's like 120,000 people now, and I think of those people, and I think of, they all have a story like me. They lost a parent early. They had a grandparent, that could have benefited from this. They have a sibling that struggles with obesity, or they're just misunderstood. And I think of like all the 120,000 number in my mind all represent somebody's life and families and all these things. And this things that's so deeply impactful to me is so deeply impactful to all those people too. And that's why that's why I get fired up. that's why I get really passionate and confident too when I talk about this stuff, because I think people interpret that the wrong way about me. I feel a little bit misunderstood online as a creator, because I feel passionate and I feel confident talking about this stuff because it consumes me. And I don't think that there are many people that wake up thinking about this stuff, go to sleep thinking about this stuff the way that I do. That's why when I meet people that do, like I see like Mel's comment, like we don't even always have to think the same way about it. But when I see people that are clearly deeply engaged the same way that I am, I love it. I
Oh,
love
yeah,
it.
she
I don't
is. She
teach
is.
that often. And I get excited about it. And I get excited to see all these other channels popping up and all these other communities, because it just like, On the Pen can't be everything to everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but people, to bring this all full circle, people need to find their people. That's the most important thing on this journey, because for people like me, like I do wonder, even if I had the medication, if I didn't have the community, what would my weight look like? What would my health look like? Would I have disengaged completely? Would I have been so frustrated that I didn't have somewhere to show up tomorrow and talk to and get encouragement or get excited about something? Would I be worse off? And I 100% think the answer to that is yes. I would be worse off without it. And so same for some people are hitting maintenance, like the people are in just different parts of their journey. So whoever you are and wherever you are, people need to find their people. And I just encourage anybody who's listening to Shay's channel or anybody who's listening to On the Pen, if you've been waiting, Dariam, I see you. If you've been waiting to tell your own story, just start. If you build it, they will come.
We call him King Darium. He's on the scene.
I love him.
I do too. I love that you talk about the community. And, I want to say, I interviewed Mindy. Mindy, I hope I could share this, Mindy, because, when I interviewed her, she talked about not having, told her mom. And I know since your book came out, she shared it with her mom. Like, this is a testimony right here. She shared it with her mom, and she was able to have the conversation with her mom using your book as a guide. I know that word was like a key word, but really that's a good word to describe. So I mean, you should feel so great about that. And I just thought, wow, that was huge for Mindy. Huge, huge, huge. So what is Mindy saying? I call her Mayor Mindy. I got to give everybody a name. You're going to have a name the next time we talk, Dave. This is Mayor Mindy. Isn't that a great name for her?
I love that. That's perfect. That is perfect.
She said Dave's article is beyond obesity, using GLP-1s for weight management, and includes a written article and a video. It's really touching. Okay, we gotta put that in the chat some kind of way.
Yeah. I wrote an article back in the fall, and then they called me like 2 months ago and they're like, we want to turn this into a video. And I was like, cool, let's do it. And then, so I got to go out to New York City. Someday I'm like trying to inch my wife towards letting me include more of our family in the channel, but my whole family's in this video at health.com. So she was cool with that. But like because this, like the pictures and the videos of me and my boys in New York City are gold. Being able to take my two oldest boys, they are 9 and 11 years old, and they've never flown on an airplane. They've been outside of Iowa a couple times, but never in a big city. So to take them, and I've been all over the country for my last job. I was literally in an airplane everywhere. I've never been to New York City. So I got to experience New York City for the first time with my 9 and 11-year-old. And the experience was just gold. It was the sweetest experience outside of watching my babies being born. And watching my babies get to know Jesus was the sweetest experience as a parent, to just watch them wide-eyed. I mean, that whole trip could be a video in and of itself, because it was just spectacular. So I'm very grateful to the folks at health.com, and very grateful to the community, because without the community, nobody cares about my story, and so I'm just very grateful.
Well, before we wrap this up, I just got to ask you this question about Dr. Tina, because she is also passionate about peptides and all of that. How did you feel going on her podcast? Were you just like, oh my goodness?
I got to know Dr. Tina for about 3 or 4 months before we did anything collaboratively, because literally so she came on my show And
Mm-hmm.
then I went on her show, but we recorded them back to back one day.
Oh,
Um,
okay,
and so
okay.
it was like the same day. So like I felt very comfortable because by that time it was like a friend I'd been texting her for a long time, and we commiserated about, they took my Facebook group away for a while, then they took my book away, and she had similar things happen on her channel, and that's sort of like where we connected. That was kind of our connecting point, is like, how did you deal with this when you lost your channel? Like, you work really hard to build that and then it's just gone. And so anyways, how I felt on it was just very, very like, just, it was kind of like natural because we had met each other. But there's definitely been some moments where I've got the chance to meet some bigger creators where at first I was like, I am in over my skis, you know, for sure. But I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a few months of getting to know her first. So
Now look at Mill's comment. I love this. One of the things about me is I love diversity of thought. I don't have to agree with you. We can agree to disagree, but if you have the respect, you pretty much have everything, right? She
100%.
says, "I love the work you're doing, Dave. True, I followed and unfollowed you a few times, but at the end of the day, she's a fan. 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 She's a fan."
I know. I've lost a lot. I've lost a lot of people. Like, at the end of the day, I think Mel would say what Mel wanted to say, and she wouldn't like spend a lot of time thinking about who it was going to cause to follow or unfollow, because at the end of the day, you just stay true to who you are and what you believe in. Here's the other thing about me is I'm not always right. I know that I'm not always right. And that's what I was saying earlier. I feel like I'm maybe a little misunderstood at times because I am confident, but I don't lack humility. I realize that can sound like a humble brag, but I really don't. Like, I really do. Like, before I go spouting off about people or spouting off in comments to people that are terrible to me, that's always a breath. I always take a breath, and then I go, would I want my kids to read this response? Would I want, like, I want my kids to grow up confident and opinionated and not afraid to share that opinion. But at the same breath, more important to me than that is that they grow up confident in, no matter how their opinions and views differ from other people, that there's a common humanity that deserves respect always, always. And so that's what I try to check myself with as a content creator, is like, before I fire off what I want to say, would I want this to be an example for my kids?
Yeah, I'm learning that too. You say things and you don't know if you say things are gonna offend someone or not, and how they're gonna take it. And yeah, I think if you just be true to yourself and you have great intentions, that's what you can go with. Now, Darian says, "Aren't the best folks the ones that get mad and and love and keep coming back? Then who push your thinking at Mel the Marvelous?" Yes, yes, yes. I agree with that. And Mel says, "Agreed. Currently a subscriber, by the way."
Till I say the next thing that makes her want to run off.
I think I told you, I don't know if you remember seeing this in the email, but I said, you were so generous and wanting to send me this book, and I said, "Now, Dave, if you just want to send me an autographed book, that's great, because I see you on the Mount Rushmore of GLP-1s whenever we get that going. So you're definitely on there, and I don't know who's on there with you, but you are definitely on there. We appreciate all that you do. I just love your passion. You're advocating for us. We gotta all get together and like try to make a change some kind of way with these prices. I
Yeah.
don't know what we're gonna do, but I'm all down for that." And Sandra said, "Hey, Sandy, she just ordered your book." Yes, yes, yes. So really quick, let's just show this book, because I don't know if people have seen it, if they're aware of it. Sandy just ordered hers. I have mine. I'm telling you, this is a good book. I'm giving it to people who I feel like they need some, education on all things GLP-1, but in the best loving possible way. So I'm going to try to copy this link and put it in the chat. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but
Yes, it's very easy to remember if you just type in glpbook.com. But I also do want to say, like, my heart behind the book, like, I'm not getting rich off of this book, and I don't intend to get rich off of this book. Like, hey, if I did get rich off of this book, I wouldn't complain about it, but it ain't going to happen. I'm selling this thing for $9.99. I realize that even for that, some people will find it cost prohibitive. And I always want to throw this out there. If you think you would benefit from passing this book off to somebody in your life, and you know that it would enrich your relationship with that person in your life, because this whole being on the pen thing is a barrier between you and your relationship, but the cost of it is a barrier. All you have to do is send me an email to david@onthepen.com. I literally have stacks of them behind me that I bought from Amazon that are for that purpose only. I will send you a book happily. Obviously, like, I can't send out 1,000 of them. So I'd say if you're listening to this, maybe like the first 20 people that would send me an email and say, I saw this, I'm happy to send one to you if it's cost prohibitive, because again, my heart behind it is for the community. I wrote it first for the community because of the Mindys of the world, right? It did not sit well with me to know that there were people that didn't feel that they were articulate enough to broach this very difficult and personal conversation. So I've shared a little bit about my own personal journey that hopefully breaks the ice and helps whoever's reading it to go, ooh, that must not have felt too good. I wonder if Mindy ever felt like that. I wonder if I ever said anything to Mindy like Dave's loved one said to him that made Mindy feel the way that Mindy felt. And we got to get Mindy on the pen and talk about this. But anyways, all very long when I don't obviously say anything with a few words. I use a lot of words. So I apologize. But anybody struggling financially to afford that and they want it, just send me an email. I'll send you one.
I love that. I love that. Well, and then, if you send me the books, I'll raffle them. I'll raffle a book or two off. We play a lot of games on this channel. So that'll be a great prize, because I always say, you won just because you feel great that you came in first place. I don't necessarily have a prize today. So I love that. Well, anything else you want to say? I think we got all the questions. Mayor Mindy, what is Mayor Mindy saying now? I bought 4 books and I've given all but one my signed copy. That's why I said he has to send me a signed copy. I have to have that. But I love that, and I think it's a great price point too. I mean, I can never get this right. I think it's a great price point on Amazon. I mean, I understand people are struggling though, because they're buying this medication, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's the last thing I wanted to do is put out a book and people be like, I don't have the money for that. I make like $2 or $2 or $3 or something off of the book. So it's not like, it's not like a ton of money, but I do not want it to be cost prohibitive to people. And I know that like people like Mindy are benefiting from it. So if you think you could, and I'll send you some copies to give away. And I'm thankful for the platform, and I take it very seriously. When you say, is there anything else that you want to say? I just want people to know that I do take very seriously the fact that I've been given this platform, and I don't take it lightly, and I'm very grateful for it. And I'm also grateful for people like you, Shay, that are creating community so that other people can find their people, right? And I think of just all the different creators on here that are creating content so that people can find community, because the last thing you want to ever do is struggle through life silently and alone and feel isolated and like you don't have your people. So I just appreciate what you all have done for me, and I appreciate what you're doing over here, Shay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for all you do, and keep up the good fight. And we're going to be checking you out, checking that channel out. We're going to be buying the book, supporting. We want to support you because, one thing about it is, I know, you're passionate about this and all of that, but you are giving up your time, and that's time that you're not with your wife and kids. I tell everybody that who always think that, when they do something that, you wrote a book, you took time to write that book, that time you took away from your family and kids. So don't ever feel like, you're writing a book that you're worried about if people are going to think you're trying to make money. You gave up your time for that. You're giving up your time every week, and I know now because, I've been on YouTube for a while. You don't make a ton of money on YouTube. So really, you have to have a passion and a joy to do this. And I always say, if it becomes not a joy for me, I don't have to be on here and do it. And I I'm sure you feel the same way. So I will see you on the pen. I hope things work out for you with
Thanks.
that, finding a medication that works for you. But I think you're doing great. I think you're doing great. I just keep it up. Keep the passion going. Don't burn yourself out though, Dave. Don't.
Thank you, buddy.
I emailed you the other night and I just thought, my goal is to sleep, right? And so I thought I'm going to email him. Here I get a text back. I said, now this guy isn't sleeping either.
Never.
We got to go to bed, Dave. Get some Z's. So thank you for coming. I enjoy having you on here, and I'm sure I'll see you around again. We have a connection now. We'll keep it going. And, if you need anything, call me. If you need somebody down there at Capitol Hill, if I can go, I'm going.
Awesome. I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate this. This has been a fun conversation. Special shout out to Mel and her super chats for getting me passionate.
Yeah,
someday,
she'll get you worked
we'll have to have you. Well, I'm revamping things over at On the Pen right now, but would love to have you over at some point and talk about your journey and would love to do that sometime too. So we'll work it out.
Oh, definitely. I'm on the road, Dave, to lose 100 pounds. I'm at 67. So That's my goal. That's my goal. All right. So I will talk to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on here. Thanks for all you do. And people in the chat, before you leave, we're going to celebrate you. Tell me about your weight loss before we go. We always got to do that. I always want to know and celebrate people before they leave. So Dave, I'm going to remove, I don't know if you, I'm going to remove you. I don't know if you want to stay for the, I know you got to go. So
I know my wife is texting me like, I didn't realize you're going to be down there this long.
Yes.
Yeah. So I will go give her some love and attention too, because she just got all 4 kids done by her. But I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I said congratulations to everyone on the success that they'll share. So
okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Good night. All right. In the chat. See? A super chat. I love that. Great show tonight. Thanks, Dave. Yes. That's so awesome. He's such a nice guy. I love that. So what are you guys celebrating? I just told you guys, I don't know if you saw that I got a DEXA scan. And, my non-scale victory is that I have not lost any muscle mass. My muscle mass is excellent. I have not lost my bones. My bone density is great. And my bones aren't failing me. So, the one thing I did have to work on was my metabolism. Remember, I don't know if you saw the video, but I have to work on that resting metabolism. So I'm going to be working on that. They told me to eat more. I thought, who goes to a DEXA scan and you're told you got to eat more? So I'm looking forward to that. Or am I? We'll have to see. I have to work that in. Sandy, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. What are you guys celebrating? Nerd Startup Incubator, you're down 63 pounds from mid-August. That is awesome. You are doing it. I remember I used to be in the chat so much and I had your weight loss down. So I'm glad you reported back to let me know. You're doing so well. Keep up the great work. I love that. Congratulations. What did Mindy say? Mindy, 95 pounds down, 35% of your body fat or your body weight. Jeez, Louise. I swam a whole mile tonight too. Mindy, you are on fire and doing it. And I love the fact that, Mindy, you're not like a young spring chicken. You're doing all of this, at an older age for the most part. And so I hope that gives people hope that, you don't have to be young, super young in your 30s. You could be like Mindy and I in our 50s and into our 60s and losing. I love that. What else? People are saying, yay, Mindy, yay. Hello. Look at that. Congratulations. Anybody else have anything to share? Let's see. Did I miss any questions in the chat? I mean, your questions were probably for Dave. Well, that's it. There you have it. I am so glad that Dave came on. Geez, Louise, I'm going to tell you guys, he's such a nice guy. And I am not just saying that. The book is good. I mean, I am definitely going to give it to a friend and just, hand it over to her. Hopefully we'll have our conversation pretty soon. That was a real story. I'm, not making that up at all. And I'll just keep you, I don't know. She might be watching this and don't want me to keep you posted. Because I know she's watching. You know, it's so funny. The people who you think aren't watching you are watching you, right? And so I know she's probably watching. And so I'm gonna give her this book when she least expects it. And I'm gonna let you guys know. Now I might, if she says don't talk about it, I'm gonna say I have to give a follow-up. So I am going to give that book out. And then, you know, I may give a couple copies out. Mindy says she bought 4. I may buy more because I still have not told all my family and friends. Can you believe that? They still do not know. And sometimes people look at me, you know how people look at you and you think it's a different look? I'm thinking, have they seen me on YouTube? Oh my goodness. Jazzy started July 1st, 75 pounds down. And like you, DD, trying to get to 100 pounds by my birthday, July 25th. Yes, yes, yes. We're almost birthday twins. I'm July 21st. Oh my goodness. Oh, Jazzy, if I don't get down, that's okay. I'm going to be okay with it. But yeah, I'm hoping to. Now that I have to eat more, it might take a little bit longer. Mimi on Retatrutide trial, you're down 34.8% of your body weight. Your BMI down from 30 to 23. Mimi, that is awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh my goodness gracious, 34% of your body fat. Well, let's just round up, 35%. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. Geez, Louise, I am excited for you. Now, when is that trial over, Mimi? When is it over, or are you still in it? And I'm just so shocked that you guys could talk about it while you're in it. I love that though, because I mean, I'm sure you have, you know, educated people on, you know, what's going on with that. A whole mile. I can't wait to be able to do that. Yes, yes, yes. Hit the like button on your way out, beautiful people. Yes, yes, yes. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. I always forget to say that. I'm going to hold up those little things. So Jen, those little signs that say, you know, like, share, you know, the video. Jen says, Mimi, when is the trial over? Sandy says, I started in February 9th. A lot of February starters. February must be the month, as I started in February of last year. You're down 13 pounds, 20 more to go. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, you're on your way. Very good. You will get there. And I would say, you know, no time, you'll be there in no time. Very good. I love that. People are saying congratulations. Let's see. Sandy, nice job. Can you tell what dose of Retta you're on in the trial? Is your heart rate elevated, Mimi? Yeah, Mimi, we want to know. People are saying thank you, thank you. At Nerd, well, if I'm on placebo, I love it and want to take it forever, right? Because they don't tell you, right? Very good. So I don't think you're on placebo, losing 34% of your body weight, but let's say 35, but I could be wrong. What if you are on placebo? Wouldn't that be so funny? Congratulations to all, Sandy says. Late February 2020, my trial ends. Oh, wow. So you got a long way to go. So how much more weight could you still losing? Could you still lose? And I see Jen said, are you losing, Mimi? Wow, that is just so awesome. Jeez Louise, I feel like we got the inside scoop too. Retatrutide. I'm so glad you feel that way, Mimi. Yes, 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 yes. So Mimi, yeah, are you still losing? Did she say how long she's been on? I don't remember if she said. Maybe she did. Um, oh, okay. I didn't catch that. Jen, I'm 14 months in, so 10 months to go. Wow. Wow. So how much weight could you lose? I'm wondering. Oh my goodness. She said her heart rate is slightly elevated, but not so I notice. Is that a side effect of the medication to do that? Somebody said Pamela is consistently losing. Did I miss Pamela's weight? Are you talking about from her video? You know, Pamela, in your video, gosh, you look so good. You know, I don't know if you've done something different to your hair. I feel like your hair was darker or something. I don't know. You just look great. You look great. Whatever you're doing, you look great. I noticed it in the last video too. But not that you always don't look great, but this, you just really stand out. So I don't know what you're doing over there, but share. Because I love it. I love it. It's Darium says all of these consistent weight loss people. That's amazing. Keep doing your thing. I had to, oh, is that what it was? You had to touch up your roots. I love that. I noticed that. I noticed that. Well, anybody else? Wait. Mimi's telling us in maintenance now, they will reduce my dose if my BMI drops below 22. So that was your goal. Oh, wow. So you're in maintenance. I didn't even really realize that they have you in the maintenance stage during the trials. I guess that would be a good thing to do, huh? Oh my gosh, very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. That is so awesome. I love that. I think, would you guys go on Reddit True Tie? I think if I got to the point where that Mounjaro 15 milligrams wasn't working, I think for sure I would do that. What do you guys think? Your heart rate can be elevated with tirzepatide too. I've heard that. On Zepbound, my heart rate average is higher than it was before, but not at all alarming. Okay, very good. I'm glad it's not alarming. All right, very good. Well, thank you guys. Thank you all for coming. Dee Dee, you will have to interview Mimi. She has an amazing story to share. Yes. I sure will. I would love to do that. Mimi, I'm going to find you and contact you so that you can interview on our channel. I mean, geez Louise, you are doing it. I love that. Kim J, if I had to, I consider. Yes, I definitely Kim would do it. If I had to, but this would have to be Mounjaro's not working, I switched what I was doing, all of that. Just popping back to say I'm so grateful for the conversation tonight. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. How sweet. Thank you. We appreciate having you too. You earned the platform, Dave. Yes, for sure. Have a great night all. Yes, have a great night. I wonder if my daughter is still up. She's 8 and she was in here while Dave was just talking. I'm trying to move her out. So hopefully she's asleep because she's going to be very tired in the morning. Everyone's saying, thank you, Dave. Jen, what is Jen saying? I love me some Jen. The problem with Retta, your BMI needs to be higher than it was with Zep. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Before you can even start it? Is that what you're saying, Jen? Your BMI needs to be higher than it was with Zep. Okay. All right. Wow. I would take Retta for maintenance. Gotta try it because I'm nosy, LOL. New profile pic. Geez, keep on keeping. Oh, I love that. Keep on keeping on. Great job, Dave, as always. You're so entertaining and knowledgeable. He is. And, I love a person that can have a conversation. Yes. And I love the diversity of thought. I tell you guys that I love diversity, but I love diversity of thought. Appreciated you all. I'm flying to Australia to trade my tirzepatide for Mimi's Retta. I love it. Didn't know that, Jen. I saw you in maintenance from a comment on another video. Congrats. Yes. Very good. Jen, you are doing it too with all that weight loss. Jen, she says she had a BMI of over 35. Okay, very good. Oh my goodness. Yep, Zep is 27. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you guys again for coming. I will see you guys on Friday for the date night. So if you know a few good men, I always tell you to come. Now, G's 101, you came and we got so distracted with singing songs and tunes and all of that. But this Friday, we're going to focus. We're going to focus. So I will see you guys on Friday. If not, I will see you on Sunday for my weekly weigh-in at 2. Friday, I'll be here Friday night, and then at 8:30, and then Sunday, I'll be here at 2. So thank you for stopping in a Wellness Wednesday. Thanks again to Dave, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you. Bye, Dave. Thank you.